They bring it up in the middle of an argument. That thing you did years ago, that mistake you've moved past. Your throat tightens. Your mind scrambles for defense. They're using your past as a weapon, and they know exactly where it hurts. When someone weaponizes your past, every instinct screams to defend yourself, explain the context, or strike back with their mistakes. But here's what the Stoics understood. The person who stays calm while being provoked holds all the power. Your past is only a weapon if you hand them the ammunition through your reaction. This isn't about winning arguments. It's about maintaining your inner peace when someone tries to take it from you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That power lives in the space between their provocation and your response. Today, I'll show you exactly what to say when someone uses your past against you. First, I'll reveal 3 responses that feel natural, but actually hand them all your power: defending, counter-attacking, and over-apologizing. Then, I'll give you 5 specific phrases that maintain your dignity while neutralizing their attack. Response number 3 stops most manipulators cold because they never expect someone to stay this calm. By the end, you'll know exactly what words to use in the moment and why they work. If you're ready to master emotional control in conflict, subscribe so we can continue building this strength together. Let's begin. 3 responses to avoid. These feel natural but backfire completely. Wrong response number 1. Defending or explaining. It feels right. If they just understood the context, the pressure you were under, the reasons behind your choice, surely they'd see it differently. Your explanation feels like truth-telling. But it's a trap. I watched a colleague do this in a team meeting. Someone brought up a project she'd led a year earlier that went over budget. She'd learned from it, implemented new processes, but during a discussion about current resource allocation, a team member said, "Well, remember what happened last time she managed the budget?" She immediately started explaining. The unexpected vendor costs, the client scope changes, the timeline pressure. He listened, then responded, "So you're saying it wasn't your responsibility?" She explained more. No, she took responsibility, but there were factors beyond her control. He picked apart each detail. Sounds like a lot of excuses. 10 minutes later, she was exhausted. The meeting had completely derailed. The current budget discussion forgotten. Everyone was now debating whether her past project failure was justified. She'd lost control of the entire conversation. He'd successfully avoided scrutiny of his current proposal by putting her past on trial. Here's why defending backfires. It gives them exactly what they want. Your emotional energy focused on your past instead of the present issue. The moment you start explaining, you've accepted the premise that your past is currently on trial. You've stepped into the defendant's box they prepared for you. And here's what most people miss. They're not seeking understanding. If they were, they would have asked privately, calmly, with genuine curiosity. Instead, they weaponized it mid-conflict. That tells you everything about their real intent. When you defend, you signal that their opinion of your past still controls your peace. You're showing them the exact wound they can press whenever they need leverage. Seneca taught that wise people don't justify themselves to those who've already decided the verdict. He wrote that explanations to a closed mind only provide more ammunition. Every detail you give becomes another thing they can twist, question, or use against you. The Stoics understood something crucial. Defending your past doesn't protect you. It traps you there. It keeps you stuck explaining ancient history while the present moment, where your actual power lives, slips away unaddressed. If defending doesn't work, maybe offense does. Maybe if you throw their mistakes back at them, they'll realize they shouldn't attack you. Let's see how that plays out. Wrong response number 2, counter-attacking. They struck first. Fair is fair. You'll show them they're not perfect either. Maybe that'll make them realize they shouldn't throw stones in glass houses. Maybe mutual destruction will establish peace. My brother tried this at a family dinner. His wife brought up a time he'd forgotten their anniversary 3 years ago during a discussion about planning their upcoming vacation. "Well, I need to make sure you'll actually show up this time given your track record," his immediate response. "What about when you missed my promotion dinner because you prioritized your friends?" She fired back. "That was completely different. I had a family emergency." He countered. "Your emergency was a birthday party you didn't want to miss." She raised her voice. "At least I don't have a history of forgetting important dates." Back and forth, volume increasing. My parents sat there uncomfortably, both of them dredging up every past grievance, forgotten birthdays, missed events, broken promises. The pleasant family dinner turned into a courtroom where they were both prosecutor and defendant. Everyone left early. The vacation planning never happened. Their relationship took weeks to recover. Here's why counterattacking destroys. It proves you're willing to weaponize the past just like they are. You've abandoned your principles the moment someone provoked you, which means they control you. Worse, it escalates conflict into mutually assured destruction where both people end up wounded and nothing gets resolved. You think you're defending yourself. You're actually demonstrating that you can be baited into becoming exactly what you oppose. Every time you match their weapon with your own, you're proving that your composure depends on their behavior, not your own character. And the relationship damage is immediate and real. Once you've both thrown past mistakes at each other, those words can't be unsaid. You've both reopened wounds that were healing. You've both proven you're willing to hurt each other when hurt first. Trust erodes with every counterattack. Marcus Aurelius warned, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." When you match their weapon with your own version, you've become the thing you're opposing. The Stoic doesn't win by matching tactics. They win by refusing to play that game entirely. Counterattacking feels like strength in the moment. It's actually surrender. Surrender of your principles, your composure, and your power to choose your response. If you've ever matched someone's attack with your own and watched the relationship burn, drop never again below. Your honesty might help someone else avoid that same damage. So defending fails, counterattacking damages. Maybe the answer is just to apologize again, to show enough remorse that they'll finally let it go. Let's examine why that doesn't work either. Wrong response number 3. Over-apologizing. Maybe if you show enough remorse, they'll finally release it. If you just apologize sincerely enough one more time, maybe they'll stop bringing it up. Maybe your guilt, properly displayed, will buy you peace. A friend lived this pattern for 2 years. She'd cancelled plans with her sister during a stressful work period. She apologized immediately, made it up to her, never did it again. But her sister brought it up constantly. During a discussion about holiday planning, "Well, you weren't exactly reliable last time." My friend apologized again. "I know, I'm so sorry, I was overwhelmed. It won't happen again." 2 weeks later, different conversation about trust. Same old incident mentioned, same apology given. "I feel terrible about that. Please forgive me." Sister accepted, moved on. Month later, argument about something else entirely. Sister brought up the cancelled plans again. My friend apologized once more, explaining, pleading. The pattern became clear. Every time her sister wanted to win an argument, avoid accountability, or gain upper hand, she pulled that lever. My friend's guilt had become a tool. The apology that should have closed the issue had instead opened a door her sister could walk through whenever she needed power. My friend finally realized she wasn't healing the relationship with repeated apologies. She was teaching her sister that mentioning this past mistake guaranteed submission. She was living in permanent debt for something she'd already paid for multiple times. Here's why over-apologizing backfires. If you've already apologized sincerely and made genuine amends through changed behavior, additional apologies don't heal anything. They just establish a power dynamic where one person holds perpetual leverage over the other. You're not showing humility. You're training them to weaponize your guilt. Each repeated apology devalues the original one. It signals that you'll grovel whenever they bring it up. It transforms genuine remorse into a performance you're forced to repeat on demand. The past mistake becomes permanent currency they can spend whenever convenient. Epictetus taught that we shouldn't grovel for forgiveness we've already earned through changed behavior. He said that continuing to submit to judgment for resolved issues isn't virtue. It's choosing to remain imprisoned by what's already been addressed. The Stoics understood. Genuine amends happen once. After that, continuing to apologize isn't taking responsibility. It's giving someone else control over your peace. These three responses, defending, counterattacking, over-apologizing, all share one fatal flaw. They give the other person control over your inner state. So what actually works? Let me show you 5 responses rooted in Stoic principles that maintain your dignity while neutralizing their attack. Right response number 1, the acknowledgement and redirect. Here's exactly what to say. You're right, I made that mistake. I've learned from it and changed my behavior. What I'm addressing right now is what's happening between us today. Can we focus on that together? Or use this version? That's accurate. I did that. I've taken responsibility, and I've grown from it. The question in front of us today is how we move forward from here. Are you willing to address that with me? Why this works? You acknowledge the past without defending it, which removes their ammunition immediately. They expected defensiveness or emotion. You gave them calm ownership instead. Then you firmly redirect to the present issue. No apology storm, no counterattack, just acknowledgement and boundary setting. It's disarming because you're not giving them the reaction they fished for. Sarah used this at work. During a strategy meeting, a colleague brought up a campaign she'd led 8 months earlier that underperformed. Given what happened last time you were in charge. The room went quiet, everyone waiting for her reaction. She paused, made eye contact. You're right, that campaign didn't meet our goals. I learned 3 specific lessons from it, which is exactly why I'm approaching this proposal differently. What I'm presenting today is a strategy based on current market data. Can we evaluate this on its own merits? He tried to continue discussing the old campaign. She stayed calm. I already addressed that failure and implemented changes. Today we're solving a different problem. Does anyone have specific concerns about this proposal? Her manager nodded, appreciating the redirect. The meeting moved forward. His weapon neutralized because she owned it without shame, then refused to let everyone camp out there. This response accomplishes 3 things simultaneously. You demonstrate growth by owning past mistakes without defensiveness. That's maturity. You show leadership by refusing to let the conversation live in the past. That's strength. You create opportunity for resolution by refocusing on what actually matters now. That's wisdom. Marcus Aurelius taught this exact principle. Confine yourself to the present. He wrote that the past is beyond your control, and dwelling on it steals power from the only moment you can actually influence. By acknowledging and immediately pivoting to the present, you live this teaching in action. Use this when someone brings up your past in group settings, professional contexts, or situations where you need to maintain authority while addressing manipulation. It works best when you've genuinely learned from the past and can speak about it without shame or defensiveness. But what if they refuse to move on? What if they keep circling back no matter how many times you redirect? That's when you need the next response. Right response number 2. The boundary statement. rewrite 450 words. Force them to choose honor forgiveness or admit they're still holding it. Michael had been through couples therapy with his partner 3 years ago after a trust breach. Hard work done, relationship rebuilt, trust restored through consistent behavior. But during an argument about holiday plans, his partner weaponized it again. Well, given what happened with Rachel back then, he stopped mid-sentence, took a breath, looked at her directly and said something he'd never said before. "I've apologized for that. We went through therapy together. I've rebuilt your trust through 3 years of changed behavior. If you've truly forgiven me, you need to stop using it as ammunition. If you haven't forgiven me, tell me that honestly, because it changes everything about where we actually stand." Long silence. His partner's face shifted. For the first time, she wasn't deflecting or justifying. "You're right," she said quietly. "I say I've forgiven you, but I keep bringing it up whenever I feel vulnerable or want to win an argument. I think I haven't actually released it." That was the first honest conversation they'd had about forgiveness in 3 years. Not about the original betrayal, about what forgiveness actually means and whether it had genuinely happened. The wound finally started healing instead of being reopened as a weapon. Here's why this response works. It exposes a contradiction most people don't want to face. Either you've forgiven someone, which means you've released the right to keep punishing them, or you haven't, which means you're being dishonest when you claim you have. By forcing that choice explicitly, you stop the weaponization. Most people won't admit they haven't forgiven because it reveals them as dishonest or petty. So they're forced to actually honor the forgiveness they claim to give. You're not defending your past. You're defending the integrity of forgiveness itself. There's a difference. The Stoics were obsessed with clear definitions and honoring commitments. Epictetus taught, first learn the meaning of what you say and then speak. When someone says they've forgiven you but keeps bringing up your past, they haven't learned what forgiveness means. This response forces that clarity. Use this when someone has explicitly forgiven you but keeps weaponizing the forgiven offense. It works in close relationships where there's enough foundation to have hard conversations. It requires that you've genuinely changed, because if you haven't, this response will backfire spectacularly. If these responses are giving you tools to protect your peace, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom that works in real conflict. And if this video helped you see a way forward, like it so others trapped by their past can find these strategies. Right response number 3, the pause and calm observation. The pause itself is the response. Everything else is just commentary. Lisa was in a planning meeting with friends about a group trip. One friend kept undermining her suggestions by referencing a time she'd flaked on plans 2 years ago. Well, we all remember what happened last time Lisa committed to something. 10 minutes later, I'm just saying, given Lisa's track record. Third time, we need someone reliable, and Lisa's history speaks for itself. The fourth time it happened, Lisa did something different. She stopped talking. Complete silence. 5 full seconds while maintaining calm eye contact with him. The room went quiet. Everyone noticed. Then, in the calmest voice, "I notice you've brought up that situation 4 times in the last 20 minutes. What concerns do you actually have about this trip that you're not saying directly?" His face changed, caught, the deflection exposed. He stammered for a moment, then took a breath. "Honestly, I'm worried about the budget. I don't think we can afford this trip right now, and I guess I'm deflecting instead of just saying that." Finally, the real conversation. Not about Lisa's past reliability, about present budget concerns. Her past stopped being a weapon the moment she refused to defend against it and instead calmly observed the pattern. Here's what made this work. The pause demonstrated complete emotional control. Most people react instantly when provoked. Lisa showed she wouldn't be rushed into defensive reaction. That silence said more than any defense could. Then the observation exposed the tactic without attacking him personally, and the question redirected focus exactly where it needed to be, on what he was avoiding. This combination devastates manipulation because you're not playing their game at all. They wanted you reactive and defensive. You're centered and genuinely curious. They expected emotion. You gave them calm observation. The power dynamic shifts instantly. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this exact practice. You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up. The pause is you exercising that option in real time. You're choosing wisdom over reaction, observation over emotion. That's Stoicism in action, not as theory, but as lived response in the moment. Use this when someone has repeated the pattern multiple times and you need to name it directly without escalating. But here's the requirement: you must actually be able to hold the pause calmly. If you're still emotionally charged, the pause won't land the same way. This requires practice and genuine self-control. Don't use this on the first offense. Use it when the pattern is clear and needs to be named. That's when it has maximum impact. Right response number 4, the radical ownership. Own it completely, without apology, without shame, without negotiation. Most people, when confronted with their past, try to soften it or explain it away. You do the opposite. You own it so fully that there's nothing left to weaponize. The exact words, "You're absolutely right. I did that. It was wrong. I've learned from it and I'm not that person anymore. If you want to keep relating to who I was instead of who I am now, that's your choice." Or even more direct, "Yes, that happened. Yes, I take full responsibility for it. And yes, I've done the work to change." Whether you choose to acknowledge that growth is up to you, not me. David used this at a family dinner. His brother brought up his past addiction during a discussion about lending money for a business venture. "How can we trust you with money after everything you put this family through with your drinking?" The table went silent. Everyone braced for David's reaction. He took a breath, looked at his brother calmly. "You're right. My addiction hurt all of you. It was wrong, and I own that completely. I've been sober for 5 years now. I've attended meetings consistently, rebuilt relationships through actions, and proven my reliability. If you need more time to trust me, I understand that. But I'm not going to keep defending who I'm no longer. That person doesn't exist anymore." His uncle spoke up. "David's shown up differently for years now. He's been there for every family event, helped when people needed him, stayed consistent. Maybe it's time we acknowledged that." The conversation shifted. David's past became acknowledged history, not a current weapon. His dignity stayed intact because he didn't defend, didn't minimize, didn't apologize again. He simply stated reality. Here's why this destroys their attack. You're taking all the weight they're trying to burden you with and lifting it yourself, without shame. They can't weaponize something against someone who fully owns it without guilt or defensiveness. You've transmuted their attack into evidence of your growth. The Stoics taught radical acceptance of reality. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." You can't change your past. That's beyond your power. You can change your present and future. That's entirely in your power. This response lives in that truth. Use this when you've genuinely done deep work to change and you're secure in that transformation. It requires real self-acceptance, not as permission for past behavior, but as recognition that growth is real and you're living proof. Don't use this if you're still carrying shame about your past. The words will sound hollow. This only works when you've actually healed. If owning your past without shame just shifted something in you, subscribe for more wisdom on turning weakness into strength. And if this response gave you a new way to handle old wounds, like this video, so others can discover that growth is the ultimate answer. And finally, when all boundaries have been crossed repeatedly, there's one response that protects your peace above everything else. Right response number 5, the minimal acknowledgement and exit. Sometimes the most powerful response is removing yourself entirely. Rachel had been with her partner for 6 years. 3 years ago, they worked through a difficult period in their relationship. Therapy attended, trust rebuilt, behavior changed consistently, but her partner kept bringing it up. During an argument about household chores, well, you weren't exactly reliable during your rough patch either. During a discussion about vacation plans, given your history, I'm not sure I can trust your judgment. She tried redirecting, tried setting boundaries, tried asking him to honor his forgiveness. Nothing changed. The pattern continued. Then one evening, during an argument about something completely unrelated, he brought it up again. You know, when you were going through that phase 3 years ago. She stopped him mid-sentence, looked at him calmly and said, I've addressed that period multiple times. I've taken responsibility, gone to therapy, and changed my behavior consistently for 3 years. I'm not going to keep defending something I've already worked through. If this conversation continues circling back to my past, I need to step away until we can focus on what's actually happening between us right now. He continued anyway. But you don't understand how much that time hurt me. She stood up, calmly. I do understand. I'm not continuing this conversation while it keeps pulling us back to something we both worked through. I'll be in the other room when you're ready to discuss the present issue. She left. No anger, no slamming doors, just a clear boundary enforced through action. 10 minutes later, he came to the other room. His energy was different. You're right. I keep using that as a shield to avoid addressing what's happening now. I'm afraid of the current problems, so I deflect to past ones. Can we talk about what's actually wrong? Finally, the real conversation began. Here's why this works. You acknowledge once, set a clear boundary with a stated consequence, then follow through. No negotiation, no justification. If they continue weaponizing your past, they do so alone. You've removed yourself as the target. This teaches them through action that bringing up your past doesn't get them your attention. It loses them your presence. Seneca taught about removing yourself from harmful patterns. We suffer by choice when we remain in situations that perpetuate suffering. This response is you choosing to stop suffering by refusing to stay in the toxic loop. Use this as a last resort when other approaches have failed and the pattern is damaging both of you. It requires genuine willingness to follow through, to leave the conversation, the room, or if necessary, the relationship. Empty threats destroy credibility. Only use this if you mean it and can execute it. These 5 responses give you options, but all of them rest on one truth you must internalize first. Your past is not your prison unless you hand someone else the key. Every one of these 5 responses works because they share one foundation. You've already done the internal work. You've acknowledged your mistakes, made genuine amends, learned the lessons, and changed your behavior. When someone weaponizes your past, they're not revealing something about you. They're revealing something about their current need, their unhealed wound, or their deflection tactic. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." When someone uses your past against you, your pain doesn't come from the past. You've already processed that. It comes from believing their bringing it up should still hurt you. You have the power to revoke that belief right now. Your past shaped you. It doesn't define you. The mistakes you made taught you. They don't represent who you are today. Anyone who can't see your growth is choosing blindness. That's their limitation, not your reality.